This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 53.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba. Ramsey's new favorite movie theme music is Wonder Woman's. He says it kicks.
Hello, SE Nation, and welcome back to another episode. If this is the first time listening to the show, my name is Ramsey Majaba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada, and I'm here to help you enhance your SE skills, find higher paying jobs, and be an overall resource for sales engineers. Today's episode was a great episode, at least in my opinion, and I say that about pretty much all of my episodes, but I learn a lot from most of my episodes anyway, so they're great. My guest comments about the fact that I've had some heavy hitters lately, like Peter Cohan or Art Fromm and Brian Youre, who have been in sales for a very long time and are now training sales engineers to do better demos, and those interviews are great. I learn a lot from them. But I also love talking to other SEs who are in the same boat as I am, maybe a little bit ahead, maybe a little bit behind. Just because I get to know what we're pretty much in the same boat. Like, we're struggling through the same things, and it validates my thought process, or I learn something new from other people. And that's the case with today's guest. His name is Rob Chvetkowski. I hope I didn't butcher that name. And he's a team lead, so he has SEs who report to him, and he still works with customers, and that gives him a perspective that not many people have. Most SEs are either SEs or SE managers, and he's a combination of the two, which is, different experience. During today's conversation, we talk about differentiation. We discuss the challenger sale method and different methods. We talk about goals and what we want to achieve. And that brings us to our quick tip of the day. I did an exercise recently to help me understand exactly what I want to do with my career and life. And if you want to do the same exercises, go to wethesalesengineers.com/careerbuilder and sign up to the email course. It is a free course, and it will help you understand what your career path could be and what you can do today to start walking down that path. Show notes for the show are at wethesalesengineers.com/53. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Rob as much as I did, and I will see you on the other side. Hey Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. The way I usually start, as you might know, is I ask you to introduce yourself to everybody listening and what you do today.
Sure. So my name is Rob Spakowski. I'm a senior lead product solution consultant for Intellect Technologies. I've been working for them for the past 4 years now. I actually just hit my 4 years this week. Intellect is a cloud-based environmental quality and safety management solution. So they do everything from permits management to like audits and incidents and quality around products and suppliers. So it's kind of a whole breadth of applications or modules that Intellect sells to make companies have less emissions or to have a safer workplace. So I've been working for them for the past 4 years in a pre-sales role and moved from pre-sales to senior to now a lead of the enterprise team. That's kind of a little bit about my background.
That's perfect. What were you before you went into sales as a sales engineer?
Yeah, before that, I was a consultant for about 8 years, implementing IT service management software for a couple of different partner companies. I got to for the consulting role. It was good. It was a lot of good experience to go to different companies and implement software and understand their requirements. But it got to a point where I think I wanted to try something different, and pre-sales came more or less naturally to me when I was kicking off projects. So I started to look at doing more pre-sales, and I found this role of info.
So you were pre-sales and you were a consultant and you worked with IT departments, and then you moved into an organization that does environmental health and safety.
Correct.
Isn't that like a different domain altogether?
Yeah, totally different industry. And if you ever know anything about environmental health or environmental safety, and you have to know all the standards. There's ISO 9001 and all of these different practices that you have to kind of learn. So that's all foreign to me, and that was probably the hardest part about taking this sales role. Was not the technology or showing the software. It was like trying to understand how the software can help them achieve certain certifications or help them be in line with certain standards that organizations are supposed to adhere to. So it's not the easiest of industries, because there's so many different I guess ways that a company can be compliant with these standards, but you just have to understand how your job will help them achieve some of those results.
I would assume it's also beneficial to be able to speak your customer's language instead of looking blank-faced whenever they come up with the ISO 9000 question.
Exactly. When they start saying those terminologies, are you ISO 14001? And you're like, yes.
And whichever ISO you want.
You're not a standards guy. You're a software guy. So you're trying to say why that part of the software is gonna help benefit them in the long run, right?
Yeah, I like how you keep turning it towards the customer. Like, you're learning this information so you can help the customer versus to understand the product, which is pretty cool. You're not the only, or your company is not the only company in that space. I'm not asking you to name other companies, but you have other companies in that space.
There are lots of companies in this space. There's even some that, you're during the sales cycle, you're talking to a customer, and they mention a company that they talk to, and it's new to you. You never heard of them before. They're popping up quite frequently who are doing the same thing. So there's a lot of companies doing this or getting into this space. Intellix is one of the top 3. So in RFP situations, we're typically shortlisted because of that. But even still, those top 2 competitors are very good at what they do. And then there's also a lot of other ones that are differentiating themselves as well.
So how when you go talk to a customer, how do you make sure that you're the first one in? Is that something you can do?
It's tough. That's tough. That's up to the sales and the BDRs and the getting the right leads. A lot of times we're not necessarily in early in those situations. We just have to try to disrupt. But if we are early, then we'll try to, tailor, or at least try to, lead them to a way that makes it more positive for our side.
And if you're not in early, what do you do then?
In my experience, I try to disrupt a little bit. So I'll try and showcase some of the differentiators that we have versus others, why it's more important than what they've seen today. In a lot of cases, they've seen 3 or 4 other solutions that are very similar. So you don't necessarily want to repeat yourself and show them exactly why it's the same as theirs. you just go for the parts of the solution that are going to be different than what they've seen, or at least try to tell a better story than what our customers have done. Or sorry, our competitors have done.
Okay. And how do you know what differentiates you from your competitors? Do you have access to the competitors' SaaS?
No, I don't. When I hear, because I've been doing this now for 4 years for Intellex, I kind of know a little bit about when I hear a question come from the customer that's framed in a certain way. I know one of our competitors was talking about that, right? So I know I can kind of diffuse that or change the subject or say, well, why is that feature important to you? Tell me a little bit about that feature that, makes it easier on you, So it's kind of maybe a little bit putting it back on them. Second thing is also to maybe combat it with something that you have that's a little bit better. But in those scenarios where you're not first, sometimes the feature battle comes up quickly, and I don't like the feature battle because obviously it's just like, hey, they have this feature, do you have this feature? And then you're comparing features to one another, and that's not what sells the solution, right? The solution is, coming up with a way to solve your business problem, not necessarily some fancy graph that they saw that they have that you don't, right? You got to try and pick beyond that and get beyond those layers.
So are you doing that as part of a discovery meeting, or is it like straight to the demo? How does it work in your organization?
Yeah, there's obviously discovery meetings. I'm sometimes on those discovery meetings. Typically, it's a sales rep, but it's mostly through the demo, or at least the first demo, where I can get a little bit more information or try to ask questions during the demo. Like the sales rep will tell me what they heard as part of the discovery, who they know may or may not be in there. Hey, we're late in the game here. They've seen 2 or 3 others. I'll try and get some information on that. But as I'm going through it, because I've done research of the company, because I've done, I know what industry they're in, I can kind of tailor my talk track and my demonstration to kind of hit on some key points that they'll want to see. And then hopefully that will steer them more towards our solution. Right.
Perfect. I like going to discovery calls. Most of my discovery calls I attend just because I find it easier to allow the customer to understand that there's more to the solution than what the competition told you, which allows me then in the demo, instead, like, I know you do a lot of research and like you kind of do your discovery indirectly, as Peter Cohen would say, by doing research and looking at your other customers, what they like. But I always find... Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So we've just changed our process now where the BDRs, or the business development reps, are inviting us to the meetings, to the discoveries. In some cases, we have sales reps who are somewhat new, who are sales engineers, want to be part of those initial discovery calls. I have a couple of sales reps who are very seasoned and who have been in the industry for a while, so I trust their judgment to say, you know what, we're going to show them these applications, we're going to go into this area, we're going to start here, we're going to go there. So they kind of lead me a little bit into what the solution is. But in the differentiation piece, we had done a Challenger. I don't know if have you heard of the Challenger sale before?
Yes, I've heard of it. I haven't read the book or done the course yet.
Okay, so we had done it. We had read the books. We didn't implement it straight up But some of the things that my team got from the Challenge of Sale, it's more on the sales reps, so it's not really a book for your sales engineers, but there's 3 layers that the Challenge of Sale teaches you about. It teaches you about learning about the company. So you go on the website, you can download for us, what's important is the corporate social responsibility report. It's called the CSR report. So how are we going to, how is the company going to, be better social responsibility? How are they going to reduce their emissions in 2025? What are their key goals that they put out to their shareholders or their customers or their or the world about how they're going to be better? Okay? So we read those documents. We try to understand what their goals are as a company. The second layer is the industry. So are they in retail? Are they in manufacturing? Are they in, are they in, what type of industry are they in? Are they a car? Do they make cars? Do they make, bottles? Like, what is the industry that they're in? And what do they typically face as an industry that's like the most challenging? So you kind of have to know company, the industry, and then the last layer is like the individual. So who's going to be on the call that I can necessarily talk to? That's going to be, maybe a director, maybe a VP. What do they typically want to see as part of the solution? So you can look at it from 3 layers when you're doing your research, and then you can use their words or their terminology when you're showing the solution, so that they get that about what they do, right? So that's kind of that was kind of my takeaway from the Challenger sale. My guys are kind of doing the research on the company on a little bit on their own before they're going into these demos, so that they can, I guess, hit on key points to make the companies aware, like, hey, this guy it's not just demoing off the street or showing me, basic, functionality. He's tailoring it to what I do and what's important to me.
Yeah, and doing the research goes a long way, showing the customer that you care.
Yeah.
Like, I can go do a discovery call and ask them all the questions. I'm still taking their time. It's still beneficial, but in their mind, I'm not doing any extra work. This is part of my job. But when I go back and do all that research, like you do, and come in and give them information that they didn't even know that they needed, that's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Have you read Solution Selling?
No, I haven't read that one. Is that recommended?
Oh, well, the way I see it is like Challenger sales, spin selling, solution selling, they always end up being somewhat similar. Just a different way of explaining stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things about solution selling that they mention is column fodder. Which means, like, if you're the 3rd or 4th company invited in to do a demo, like after everybody's done their stuff and done their discovery, you're kind of like an afterthought. It could be considered as column fodder, as in you're just asked to come in so that they can do a check mark that we asked 5 companies to come in instead of 4, and now we're going to go with whoever we chose. And doing all that research that you just mentioned goes a long way in changing their opinion and moving you from a column fodder to a higher possibility vendor, I guess.
Yeah. Remember too that we are the gate to between sales and the opportunity. So the way I see it, the gate doesn't necessarily have to be difficult to open, but it does need to have some checks and balances before you can open that gate, right? If somebody comes on your website to see your software and it goes to a sales rep and they come up to you and they're like, hey man, they just want to see the software. Like, of course they want to see the software. That's exactly what the website is built for. why am I showing? What is the benefit for me to show the software without having you ask questions or without having you determine why it's important for them? Why do they come on the website? What is it going to do for them? What do they have today? Why is it? You know what I mean? To start asking those questions so that, to your point, we could be calling Fodder. We could be the third company. It could be a procurement run project where they're like, the business likes these really two good ones, but I need a third. Go find me a third. And then they just hit your website and say, you're the third.
Yep.
You're like,
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm the third. Really? But at the end of the day, that the business doesn't really engage unless you make that happen, right?
Yep. So this is so funny. You just said, oh, they just want to see the software. I wrote a blog post yesterday and used those exact same words as an example of what someone would say to me. And you get over it by being a good leader and asking those questions, basically. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, we got to change. We got to change the narrative. We got to make, the sales reps earn the right to have a proper demo. Because I've been on so many calls where I'm talking, and I always ask questions in my demos, and I'm not getting any answers or delayed responses. And you come up, and now it's instinctive, right? So you come off the phone, you're like, that's not going to go anywhere, or that was tough, right? Because if you're just doing, I can send you a video. It can be a 5-minute video about what the software does, and that can be just as impactful for those tire kickers than, say, a tailored demo where it doesn't go anywhere because they weren't interested in the first place.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you are experienced. You've been doing this for 4 years, which is why you can tell that sort of thing. Well, you've been doing it for more than 4 years, but you can tell, which opportunities are actually good. You can recognize different opportunities based on the customer's website. If I'm a brand new SE to your company, how would I actually get to learn all that? How would you recommend that I learn it and get mentored by someone?
So that's a good question. So we have enterprise, we have our mid-market mid-market teams. So typically, they start at the mid-market level. Although I do have a sales engineer coming on my enterprise team that's coming straight to enterprise, but she's been a consultant with the company, so she at least has some experience. I think if that's the case, if they're getting a lead from the sales rep, I think they have to go through it a few times, or at least have someone a little bit more seasoned on maybe the discovery calls or the first few calls to see, to get their perspective. We have a tool called Gong. It records all of our demos. And so we always can go back to those calls and listen to them and get, provide feedback to our SEs. So that's a good way to, listen to a few of those calls and say, hey, what did you think about this one? This is great opportunity. It looks like it's going to go somewhere. And then you have a different perspective that you can offer to it. So I think it's a little bit of that, listening, coaching, having them go through a few of these opportunities that might not have the wheels, but to then gain the questionnaires or what they want to achieve from that as well.
So it's gong.io. Is that the website?
Yeah, that's the website. So it's a good tool for the sales reps and the SEs to not only go back and listen to some of the calls that they've done before, but then if somebody came off a really good call, or you're mentoring or coaching the SEs, you can listen to their calls and provide feedback.
Have you heard of a tool called Omnitime, Demo on Demand?
Omnitime?
OMEDYM.
No.
I was just recently exposed to it, since you're a team lead and you're using such a thing. But you can actually, it's a demo on demand, where if you have a big demo and someone wants to jump to a specific part of it, they can just search about that part. I don't know how it works, but that's how they advertise it. I'm wondering if anyone used it before.
Cool.
Do you actually go back and listen to the recordings that you have on Gong from other SEs, or do they listen to their own demos?
Yeah, I do. I haven't done because so in my role, I'm a lead, and I do both. So I also support a couple of sales reps, and I'm also the lead of the enterprise team. So I have to do more lead than I want to do for demos. So I go back, I listen to their calls. I've gone on site with one of my guys. I'm going to try to do that a little bit more often as well, so that you can see how they present, see how they demo, and provide feedback on how they're doing.
Nice
For sure. Yeah. We've done Demo to Win training. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I've read their book. I haven't done any of the training.
Yeah, so we did Demo to Win last year. It was good. It's a good tool. It's a good training program for you to understand how to do the tell, show, tell methodology. You tell them what you're going to show them, you show them, and then you tell them what you showed them. Right? Yep. So it's kind of getting into their brains. Now, with this being in this day and age, we've got to incorporate more video. So we have to do more, like, share a webcam, at least the first portion of it. Because we're so busy, we haven't necessarily done that to the extreme yet. So so me and my other team lead and my director, we really need to push that training again. We need to push those skills that we learned to start using those every single day, so it becomes instinctive. You share your webcam, do the tell, show, tell, get them more engaged, because as soon as you do that, you're going to start seeing, the close rates happening a little bit more frequent.
Okay. Have you read the book Great Demo?
Is that Cohen?
Peter Cohen.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, how would you compare and contrast the Demo to Win versus Great Demo?
So I think I'm not really sure. I don't really. I have to reread Peter's book. It's been a long time since I read it. But I think you can incorporate some of the Demo to Win strategy plus storytelling as well. That's a really big one, a key one that we're hitting on. We all went back into our archives, so to speak, of any sales that we've done recently in the past year, and written stories about them. Why did they come to us? What did they want? How did we win? How are they being implemented, or have they been implemented today? To kind of tell a story of certain industries that we can then use when we're launching that. But I think it's doing that and doing storytelling that's really gonna set you apart from some of your competitors.
Okay, that works for me. So, while you're mentoring those new SEs and coaching them, and using Gong and all the different tools that you guys use. What can you do and what can they do as SEs themselves to ensure that they achieve success?
Yeah. So that's a good one. The way I see SEs achieving success, obviously, the first and foremost is making money, right? So they're gonna, for every sale that they make, they obviously are going to be motivated by their variable comp, right? So you want to make sure that hitting their quotas is obviously going to be a part of the success. What we did with myself and the other team lead, my other colleague Tom and Kate, our boss, our director, is come up with a sort of succession plan, like how somebody can be an associate to a product solution rep, to a senior, to a principal. So you can go that route, or you can go from senior to team lead to director to VP, right? So either way, you can either go the management route or you can go the principal route. In each one of those scenarios, you want to set their goals on a quarterly basis, and then review them individually with the team to see if they're being met, right? So there's a lot of things that go outside of making your number. It comes to the leads that the sales reps are getting. It's not necessarily in our hands, but that's one sort of element, but it's also then making sure that they're, achieving their individual goals, getting the soft skills to ask questions. Are they good at doing demos but not good at scoping? Let's improve their scoping techniques so that they can deliver the service, or send it to the services team to deliver the projects better. Are they good at scoping but not good at but need some work on their demos? So it's kind of that process. And when they're well rounded and they are starting to achieve success, then you can promote them into the other areas of the team.
I do have a couple of comments.
Sure.
I think the fact that you have like room to grow, or like a progression ladder, is very important, because for me personally, the reason I left my former company is because I was a senior SE since I joined, and I had nowhere to go from there unless I moved from an SE position.
Yeah.
So I had to find somewhere else where I have the opportunity, if I want to grow. So the fact that you're actually implementing that's great to hear. I like the fact that you do quarterly reviews versus annually, because right now I'm doing an annual review and I already forgot what my goals were. So
Okay.
I'm going to have to review it myself. That's on me, not on my manager. But even if, like, for SEs out there who have annual reviews, you could review your own goals quarterly or even monthly if you want. You mentioned that like they get the soft skills. That was the terminology you used. Are your like SEs, are they engineers to begin with?
What do you mean, like by trade?
Yeah.
Some, yeah. So some of them are. Some of them are, have vast experience. 15 or years in the, doing sales engineering from other companies. Some are new, who, just started. And I have one who came from the consultants, who's implementing the software. So it's a mix. It's a mix of different skills or from different areas. Yeah.
For those who are highly technical and do not have the soft skills today, what can they do to get the soft skills? Because I feel like that's a weakness for a lot of SEs who were engineers.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in I'm not sure I know exactly. Oh, I have a good idea.
Okay.
I do have one guy who needs maybe a little bit more of the soft skills. There are some courses that you can take that teach you a little bit of those soft skills, or like presentation styles. So those are some areas I haven't done that portion yet, but I think there are organizations who can teach some of these soft skills. A lot of it is repetitive to go, like, if I were to go on site with that individual, I can then, teach them or help them gain those soft skills. But I think it's better to be, some people learn by experience. Some people learn to better if they're in a class situation. So it really depends on the individual. And the sales rep also has some say in that as well. So I always get feedback from the sales reps on on a quarterly basis on how their SEs are doing, right? So are they doing the soft skills? Are they asking the questions? Are they having a very engaging demos? Are they helping you out? So those are a lot of things that a couple of things that I think would help with the soft skills.
May I provide a recommendation, and that's just a personal opinion of
Sure.
mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I feel like a lot of SEs kind of practice live in front of a customer. And since we're both Canadian, I'm going to use a hockey analogy. That's like not practicing all year and just you start practice on the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, like, if someone needs help with presentations, he should be doing presentation on a weekly basis, either in front of a camera and recording himself, or in front of the team and getting feedback, like in a friendly environment. At least that's how I see it. So
Right.
that when he goes in front of a customer, he won't blow it.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion, and that's how I like to be treated. I don't know if anybody else likes that. Most people would argue that they don't have time to practice in front of, like, with the team. Everybody's busy, everybody has meetings, so they don't practice at all until they get in front of the customer.
Right. Now, we did around the Christmas time, we did a competition. So it was to record yourselves demoing a certain application, and it didn't have to be an app that an application that you demoed. Like it didn't have to be an application that you demoed significantly. It was something that might have been a little bit new to you, or something that you haven't done all that frequently, that you're not as familiar with. Tell a story. You had 15 minutes. We recorded them all, and we were supposed to have competition to determine who had the best. Unfortunately, it didn't play out the way that we wanted it to. A lot of guys were busy, and the demos didn't the competition didn't achieve the end result. But you're right. If and when you have that time to record yourself or to set aside, I always say Fridays after a long week, you can set aside maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, even an hour to go through, the week, kind of decompress, understand what you did right, what follow-ups you need to do for the next week, but then take initiative to kind of learn something. It doesn't have to be within the industry. It doesn't have to be, it could be a new application that just came out that you haven't demoed, and kind of get your talk track or story around it. It's just trying to find the time within a busy week of lots of demos and follow-ups and so forth, or maybe even on-sites, that it doesn't happen as frequently. But you're right. Practicing, listening, not necessarily going in cold to a demo are all key aspects.
Nice. Not many people would actually recommend that. I'm lucky that my manager actually allows us Like, I think Monday mornings and Friday afternoons for our own development. Mainly because
Hmm.
Monday mornings customers are back from weekends and they're looking at their emails. They don't want to talk to us. And Friday afternoons they're getting ready to leave and they don't want to talk to us.
Yep.
So
Yep.
works out.
That's good. So, can I ask you a question? Do you have your, at your organization now? Do you have your, you know, criteria of your next of achieving success factored in now?
I do have some goals set. Using the SMART methodology.
Okay.
But I think the biggest thing is make quota. Right? You make quota, you're pretty much 90% successful.
Yeah, but I think it has to be. I think it has to go beyond that. But what helped me significantly, I went for a coffee with one SE or not SE, a sales rep who had been with the organization a long time and worked up to VP level. Who's just said, write down your goals and look at them frequently throughout the year. And obviously, achieving quota for an SE is a big one, but it was to promote myself to senior or to learn a certain aspect of the industry, or to provide content to my team that will help them, or to what I mean.
Yeah.
So there was certain things that I had wrote down, and it helped me a lot. Like, I'm a little bit old school, so I write things down as opposed to having it on my computer.
But that's you, right? That's your
Right.
Initiative, not your organization's initiative. Yeah. So yeah, from an organizational perspective, it's make quota and do these couple of things, and you're done. Are you familiar with the Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
Who?
It's he's a guy. He's a sales coach or whatever, and he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. And it's about waking up every morning, doing like meditation, affirmation, whatever, and then there's writing down goals every day. So every day you write down your goals that you want to achieve, and it's not like I want to be a senior SE or I want to be a manager. It's what you're gonna do to become a manager. Like I'm gonna work with this guy today. I'm gonna work with this guy today to help them. I'm gonna record a demo and share it with the team. That's the goals that you write down. So it's kind of similar to what you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you that write down goals makes it easier to achieve them versus just keeping them in your head.
Exactly.
I like it. So speaking of this, you write down your goals. What is your goal for your career?
Yeah, I think you sent me that question, and I wrote it down. And honestly, I'm not really sure. I'm at that point where I'm not really sure which direction to go. I like this role because I have a dual role, right? I support some SEs or some sales reps, and then I mentor and I coach some of the half of the team on the enterprise side. So it's very fulfilling to do both. I just don't know if it would be as fulfilling to do one versus the other, to be just the coach or to be just demoing the solution, right? So I'm at a point where I have to set aside what those goals will be in the future. I just don't. Having been doing this now for half the year, I feel like, and now I have to start to look at what that future will look like. Unfortunately, it looks a little bit hazy right now, but I definitely think that I need to set aside some of those starting as soon as possible.
So have you talked to your director? They don't work with customers, correct?
Yeah. I talk to my director. She, I meet regularly with her on a like I think once a month at least, and we talk. It's hard to I don't know because of the way that sales is structured, or you're not really sure how because things change frequently, right? There's a new sales methodology, or there's new sales reps coming in, or certain sales reps leaving, or you're not really sure how the dynamics gonna work or play out in each given year. So it's a little bit hard to tell what those, if that's going to impact how you're going to be, having less sales reps, or you're going to have more, or you're going to, move into a different position. So I've had some conversations, but not to the detail of what a career path would look like.
Not to plug my own free email course, but I just came up with a email course that I use to help me think about my career. And it's basically, you think about what you want your life to look like, think about what you enjoy doing, and plot a career path from there. It's a little bit more details in the email. So I can share that link. It's wetheses.com/career builder.
Okay,
And
perfect.
yeah, you're so.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
I think it's very important, Ramsey. I think it's great that you've done it, because career goals and your personal goals should, in a sense, mesh a little bit. To say that you want to, have certain skills or what you enjoy doing could also factor in what you're doing at work. When I read a book by I think it was I read a book called Radical Candor. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Nope.
But it basically says that to be a really good mentor, or at least somebody who's in a management position, to feed the passions of the individuals, so that they're not just coming to work and being the best SEs, but also feeding some of those passions, right? So if one of our client partners is a wine, like she's really into wines and knows a lot about that. So it would be great if she could maybe one day teach us about the different wines, or use that platform as a way to teach others, you know what I'm saying? Or to take a course that's not necessarily in an SE form, but is a passion of yours that you can then use to elevate yourself, or decide that, hey, maybe I want to go and do this career now, or do something a little bit different. So it's not necessarily feeding the SE, the technical part of it, but your passions can blend into what you're doing on a day-to-day, right?
Yeah, well, everybody talks about work-life balance. I like to consider work-life integration, which means
that's a good one.
You bring in your like right now I'm doing this podcast and blogs or whatever. A lot of times I have my son sitting on my lap. He has a fake microphone, and he's doing his own podcast while I'm writing my blog post. It's very, very slow to write a blog post like that, because he's asking me a million questions a second, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, no, it's good. I have kids. I take a one day a week. I work from home, so I can take them to school and pick them up. So, that work-life balance is very, very prevalent now, especially in the industry of IT. People are moving out of the city to go to different areas and working from home. There's a lot of companies that offer 100% work from home. I don't know if I could do that necessarily because you get a lot of distractions, but that's very very prevalent in IT now, especially with the SEs. If you think about all the travel that we do, I don't know how much you travel, but my SEs travel quite a bit. I probably travel the least on my team, and I still feel like I travel quite a bit. So, one of the biggest things I'm very conscious of is burnout for my team. To too much travel or too much pressure of getting demos or providing scoping estimates for opportunities that the sales reps have determined that they're going to close at the end of April, for example, but then it closes in September. So you're hustling, you're doing all this work, and then sorry, it pushed, and then you're not seeing the fruits of that labor until well down the sales cycle. So burnout is a big thing. I don't want my guys to feel, or even myself to feel like it's just not going to be rewarding because they're hustling and they're doing all this, and they're not seeing the fruits of that. Right.
That's good. That's good. Not many managers think like that. So that's good to hear that you think about that. All right, I think it's time to transition to the not so fire round. I've changed the questions up recently, so if you haven't heard the podcast in a while, it's going to be a surprise for you. So, question number 1.
All right.
What do you love about being SE team lead?
The number one thing I think is it's ironic. I'm not the best presenter on the team. I'll be honest. I'm not the best presenter. I think the number one thing I like is the deal strategy and giving advice to the guys that I know will help impact the deal that they may not have tried before, or that they're not necessarily have thought of before. All right, the deal strategy and the deal and the the coaching part of it, I think, is very rewarding to know that you're helping somebody gain a different perspective on something. So I would say that one.
Nice. I feel similar for the same reason you said, but it also makes me feel smart if we actually win the deal through the strategy that I came up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, it doesn't happen very often. What would be one thing you would change about your job?
I think change about the SE job or the
your job right now. How would you make your job better?
I think to make it better, I think we need to have better synergies with sales, and I think we have to recognize that the industries are changing. The way that the sales are being done now have changed significantly. So I think to make it better, I think there has to be a better synergy between our SEs and our sales reps.
Do you mind if we dig in a little bit into this?
Yeah. There has to be a strategy to why. There has to be a strategy every single time a company wants to see a demonstration. You have to look at it as if they're trying to they're trying to. You have to teach them something. You have to get them to understand something about your software that you can help them with. That's going to be satisfying for both them and yourself. That you're not just going to be a demo monkey who's going to show the software and then nothing's going to happen. So we have to have better synergies, better blockers in a sense, or have better communication between us, as opposed to saying, I think I saw in your post that you mentioned about these account reps that say like just demo, or I think you wrote it recently where you feel like, there's nothing good that's going to come out of just demoing when it's not, it's not going to go anywhere, right? I think is what I'm saying. So I think if I were to change one thing, I would change the we're already perceived as a well-established group, as a thought leaders on the solution and to the sales reps as invaluable, and I want that invaluable communication to come out to the sales reps, because they're doing. Let's say a sales rep has 10 opportunities, right? If an SE is supporting 4 sales reps, then he's got 40 opportunities. So he's got 4 times as much experience with the industry or with the ops. So I want that to, that coaching, that to translate with better synergies with the sales reps.
Yep, that makes sense. For me, I've always been lucky that I only work with one other sales guy. So I get to build that relationship with him. And if he comes up to me and says, oh, they just want to see the product, I know how to talk to this guy to make him understand that, well, there's no such thing. They either want to buy or they don't want to buy. How do we make sure that they're going to buy at the end? But working with 4 different account managers, I'm assuming they're not geographically are they geographically co-located?
A lot of them are in Toronto, so they all a lot of them are there, but there are quite a few remote as well.
Yeah, so I would assume the SE would have to work really hard to build a relationship with these account managers, so that they're both comfortable being honest with each other, to the point where this demo doesn't make sense. Why do they want this demo? Do we have any information other than they want to see the product? The blog post that I wrote said exactly that. My manager came out and says they want to see the product. Like, which part? What do they want? How do they want to see it? What are they trying to solve? It's like, oh, they just want to see the product. And it was the worst demo I've ever done.
Yep. Yeah, and not only that, it's like, to understand, to try to get the sale to happen with less frequent demos, because oftentimes we do 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do more demos than just the one. But I would like to have better, like I said, better synergies because like I said, you're only supporting one sales rep. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in our case, we're doing more opportunities than the sales rep has, because we're supporting more than 2, more than 3 sales reps. We're supporting sometimes 3, sometimes 4 sales reps. So we have deep knowledge into all these different accounts or these opportunities that we've had before. So rather than say, hey, demo these guys, like, hey, this company came up. They want to see this. What do you recommend? Like, what, how can I, like, what can I do for you that will make this successful? Without, and we're seeing a lot of, that just not a lot of just demo. We're trying to put in place the right procedures for that. They can even fill out a request and detail out what they want to see. So. We want to try and improve that for sure.
Perfect. All right. Jumping on to the third question. What book or resource would you recommend to every SE?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've got a couple. I mentioned the Challenger sale, not necessarily as a way for you to implement the Challenger sale methodology, but it's a tool that really tells you how to do your research so that you can hit the point that they may not have thought of before. So if you're going against 6 other companies, they all have the same platform, they all have the same thing. If you show this one thing to them, they'll set you apart from everybody else. Right? So Challenger sale would be one. I would also recommend. I'm halfway through Brian Jury's book as well, so that's a good one for the demo, and Peter Cohen's is pretty good as well.
Perfect. So I haven't read Brian's book. It is on the list, and it will be on the book club fairly soon. How do you like it so far?
It's pretty good. The thing is, Ramsey, we got to get into that mode of asking questions. And I know you do your discovery calls, but I always now in my demos, even though I know the answer, 10 minutes through, I ask a question. Is this how you do your audits today, or whatever that question is? Even though I know the answer, I'll ask it so I can get more feedback and get them to answer questions. And one of the things that we've learned, that we've toned down a lot on the sales side is nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about what your company does and how long you've been in business and how many employees you have. So don't lead with that, right? Don't lead with the slide of logos that really doesn't matter, right? It could be one site that uses us at a big company. So don't show your logo slides. Tell them a story. Tell them a story about why a company bought you that's similar to them, that is using your system that would benefit them, right? So I think he, in his book, it's more or less about asking those questions and having the good synergies between sales.
Nice. It's like you're a man after my own heart.
Huh?
You're a man after my own heart, I said. One thing I would like to add is that I do the discovery with customers. I think your team's discovery is going to be a little bit more with account managers that are bringing in the opportunity as well.
Well, it's a bit of, so you could technically be on the discovery calls if you wanted to. Like I said, we're being invited to them now, so you can accept or decline depending on how busy you are. We make all the sales reps put in now a product sales request, which is in Salesforce, which says, I need an out of the box demo, and here's the link to the opportunity, right? So it's to record how many demos our guys are, or how many requests we're getting. Is it demos? Is it proof of concepts? Is it RFP responses? What are they for, and which opportunities are they tied to? So we can get better metrics. Because for us, I think, how do you measure how good an SE is? How do you measure how much bandwidth one has versus another, right? Like, how do you get those metrics? I looked at a tool called Viven. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a pre-sales tool that is a plug-in to Salesforce. But anyways, it's more or less to record your, like our product sales request tool is more or less record the metrics that you're getting. Because how do you know if a pre-sales rep is getting better? That's the soft skills. But then the hard skills are win rates and how many demos and so forth that we'll need to look at to see how if anything we're going to get better, right? And we're starting a new engagement with Brian Jury. So hopefully that will help us transition, at least, get our win rates a little bit higher, so we can, I'll achieve more success. Right?
That is awesome. All right, last question of the day. What advice would you give an SE that you feel they don't get from anyone?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What what advice would you give a sales engineer that you feel they don't get from anyone?
Ooh, that's a good one. So what advice would I give a sales engineer that they don't give anyone? Sales engineers, if okay, I'll start like this. Every sales rep has a title, and regardless if you're an account manager or sales rep, when you walk into that on-site or you start off the demo, companies know you're a sales rep. Okay, regardless of whatever title they use, which I find titles now are so confusing. They've gone a little bit overboard on their titles, but anyways, you're a sales rep. Regardless, if I walked in to buy a car, and I said to my wife, like, don't talk to the sales rep. Like, I'm expecting this guy with a gold tooth and a tie to take me around and sell me on the car. But the sales has changed. But anyways, the sales rep is going to have a certain title, so he may not be the trusted advisor to some of those people in the room because they may have a negative thought. They may think this guy just wants my money. So you be the good cop to the bad cop. Okay, it might it might not translate. It might not be what you're instinctive to. Maybe a sales engineer who doesn't have those soft skills necessarily, but win them over. Be pleasurable, be funny, and use your personality to get them on your side, right? So you may all take that approach where you're like, oh, he's just a sales rep. I mean, I can make a joke here or there to warm them up and be personable. So Ramsey, you said you have a son, so use a family example when you're demoing, so that you could make yourself more human to them, and then they can let the guard down a little bit and trust you a little bit more.
That makes sense.
I would say that would be my advice.
Perfect. And a perfect way to end the show. Thanks for coming on, Rob. I appreciate you taking the time on Good Friday.
No problem. Thank you, Ramsey. Keep doing what you're doing, man. This is a great tool. I've been listening to your show for a little while. Again, you got some good heavy hitters, and it really helps guys in the industry, whether you're new or for those who are training or who have the experience. I've listened to a number of your shows, but you're doing a great job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. And thank you guys for listening. It is a bit of a longer show, but everything that we were talking about was bringing value to me, so I just couldn't cut it short. And I hope it brought value to you as well. The big thing that I noticed with Rob is that he invests in his sales engineers. They've already done the 2-win training, and they're also getting Brian Youre, who was a guest on the show, show 42 to be exact, and he provides a service for engineers like you and me to submit a demo and get it critiqued. He is going to provide them training. So they are heavily investing in their engineers, and I hope it pays off for them because not many people do that. There are many books and software we discussed today, and they can all be found in the show notes at wetheSalesEngineers.com/show53. Thank you all for listening. And if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, happy Easter. And I will see you guys next week. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.